Brace yourself for sheer epicness, because today I'm going to reveal the failure of my Patreon. Without further ado, without further delay, without further procrastination, let's delve into the nitty-gritty. Let's dabble into this. I've been striving to garner support from my patrons. Unfortunately, it has culminated in nothing. I haven't been able to obtain a single patron. Brace yourself for sheer epicness, because today I'm going to reveal the failure of my Patreon. Without further ado, without further delay, without further procrastination, let's delve into the nitty-gritty. Let's dabble into this. I've been striving to garner support from patrons. Unfortunately, to my dismay, I have failed on all accounts. This is quite an issue from my perspective. This is quite a detriment from my perspective, because I'm in debt. I'm submerged in debt. I'm drowning in debt. I need to pull myself out of the muck and mire. I'm a full-time student, which further culminates in exacerbating the issue. I've offered my patrons stupendous perks. I've implored them to support me. Fortunately, to my dismay, I haven't been able to garner any support on Patreon. So, it's just a disaster within itself. I took heed of people's requests. I even offered to provide them with video requests if they would pledge a certain amount to me. I offered them perks, rewards, and special privileges. Unfortunately, to my dismay, there hasn't been any response to the aforementioned. They neglected to pledge to my cause, and let's redo this. Brace yourself for sheer epicness, because today I'm going to reveal the failure of my Patreon. I've been striving to garner support from patrons. I've implored them to support me. I've implored them to pledge to my Patreon account. They've desisted from doing so. I ramped up the perks. I amplified the rewards. Still, I haven't garnered a single response. It's quite a shame and quite a pity what has transpired, but it is what it is. I'm submerged in debt. Brace yourself for sheer epicness, because today I'm going to reveal the failure of my Patreon. I've been striving to garner support via Patreon for eons now. Unfortunately, to my dismay, I haven't been able to attain a modicum of success in that realm. I've been ramping up my perks. I've been amplifying the rewards that I offer my patrons. Unfortunately, to my dismay, no one has subscribed to my Patreon account. So, I'm in a dire state. I can't pull myself out of the muck and mire. I'm submerged in debt. How do I get out of this situation? I may have to take another approach. I may have to work a job outside the virtual realm. Even though people have requested that I make specific videos, even though people have notified me that they relish watching my content, I still haven't been able to garner a single dollar on Patreon. So they're not putting their money where their mouth is. They expect everything to be for free, and I understand their perspective because they're so acclimated to receiving everything for free. But when your livelihood is at stake, and when you have bills to pay, and when you need to generate revenue to stay afloat, it's just not feasible, nor is it a viability to be a full-time creator when the CPMs are so low, when advertisement revenue is so low, when ad blocker is ubiquitous, and when it's nearly impossible to earn the support of a patron. So I failed to garner any support on Patreon. I thought that my perks and rewards that I offered the prospective patrons were enticing, but I guess they're not enticing enough to sway someone or convince them to relinquish $1 to me in exchange for a perk. So it is what it is. I can't rely on patron support. I can't rely on advertising revenue to sustain me, and in order to stay afloat, in order to deal with the ramifications of being a full-time student, I'm going to have to work a job that is not stifled by ad blocker. I'm going to have to work a job that is not dictated by low CPMs, low RPMs, nor the prevalence of ad blocker. So I'll have to delve into uncharted territory and partake in a real world endeavor. So I hope that you found this video to be intriguing and enthralling. I wonder what is needed to garner patron support. But even if I were to know, I likely still wouldn't get enough to sustain myself as a content creator, so it wouldn't matter either way. I hope that you found this video to be intriguing and enthralling. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Goodbye. Brace yourself for sheer epicness, because today I'm going to reveal Brace yourself for sheer epicness, because today I'm going to reveal the failure of my Patreon. Without further ado, without further procrastination, without further delay, let's delve into the nitty-gritty. Let's dabble into this. Unfortunately, I haven't attained a modicum of success on Patreon. I haven't been able to earn a single pledge from the patron. I thought that my rewards, I thought that my perks, I thought that my incentives were enticing. I thought that people would be inclined to support me via Patreon. In spite of all the positive feedback I received, in spite of all the video requests I received, I still haven't garnered a single penny from Patreon. It's quite a shame and quite a pity. I can no longer sustain myself as a full-time content creator. I couldn't initially, but now that my expenses are higher and more exorbitant than ever, the prospect of being able to sustain myself in the future as a full-time content creator no longer seems viable nor feasible. As a full-time student, I'm in debt, and I can't pull myself out of the muck and mire through advertising revenue, since ad blocker is ubiquitous. Furthermore, I haven't been able to garner any support from my patrons. They desist from making any pledges to me. They abstain from donating pennies to me. They expect everything to be for free. At this rate, I'm getting paid significantly less than 1/10 of minimum wage for each hour I put into creating content. So, creating content, from my perspective, is fruitless. I continue to drown in debt. The interest continues to accrue into the principal, and I'm going to have to pursue another avenue if I want to get out of debt. I'm going to have to work full-time in the real world. If I want to get out of debt, I have to flee from this virtual landscape if I want to get out of debt. I can't create videos full-time and expect to stay afloat and sustain myself and pay off all my expenses is just not a viability, especially when CPMs and RPMs and advertising revenue is just so low. So it is what it is. I thought that the perks I offered on Patreon were enticing. I thought that people would pay money for video requests. I thought that they would advertently support my content. I thought that they would be inclined to support my content, especially considering that they relish watching it. But they want everything for free. They yearn to see everything for free and expect everything for free. So that ultimately culminates in the content creator being destitute and impoverished. So I have to undergo another job if I want to make ends meet and attain a livelihood, because at this rate I'm just further drowning in debt, and I need to pull myself out of the muck and mire if I want to have a chance and having a semi-stable future. The future is precarious, the future is unknown, and an enigma. So maybe one day I'll attain a modicum of success on Patreon, but it is not this day. Today I have failed as a content creator on Patreon. My past efforts have been in vain. They've been futile. They've been fruitless. They've been inefficacious. I haven't been able to garner any support on Patreon, so it is what it is, but I need to learn from my failures and move on towards attaining success. So I hope that you found this video to be engrossing and enthralling and insightful. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Goodbye.